child. They married my grandfather and Albert Dyer on Palm. So we always have that Birregubba connection, and it makes me very happy to see that the Birregubba Nation is looking at taking control of its society and its resources, and it truly is the true and correct owner for those territories. So I'm very happy to help, and I hope you find this presentation useful. The reason why we use Gayaburra, which is the original name for God here, is because if we don't talk about where the law comes from, then we sort of, that's not what sovereignty is. Sovereignty is about the creator. And with law, someone had to create the law, and we know that the Birregubba Nation and all the different tribal groups on this landmass have that birthright or bloodline hereditary and spiritual gift from the creator to call that place theirs. And so I acknowledge the Githibal Narakpal Yukum Yukum, and I acknowledge the Birregubba and anyone else from your families, wherever you're also from. I acknowledge and pay respect to them as well. And really, if we're just talking man to man and women and men as God creations, that I fully acknowledge that you are part of a royal society. That's not a problem for us. We already know that, and we've got all the same markings and law as let's say the kings and queens of European heritage and whatnot. So it's just how do we express that, and that's through the written law. So even Israel, if you look at the scriptures, which we use a lot, they were a tribe, but they were in slavery. They came out of slavery, and then God gave Moses the written law on tablets. So that's where we are at the moment as Yidinji. We went through that phase where we were sort of captured in slavery. People call about Australia a slave state or whatever it is. It's just one of those things that we didn't feel too good there. So what I might do, if it's all right, I might share a presentation, and I'm just going to see if this works. Can you see a PowerPoint presentation now on my screen?
Yeah, on your screen, yes. Mortimer, you should be able to share screen.
Oh, okay, I can do it that way. Yep, no worries. Well, let's do that. And what I'll do, this is a really simplified version, but I'm sure you guys will get the picture. All right. Let's just say Birregubba from the beginning. Okay. Let's go there. Let's see if this works. All right. Now, in the Yidinji society, the law is passed through the man. So yesterday, we had a tribal law meeting in this very room, and the women couldn't talk, but they appointed someone for the men to talk to each other. So the woman was talking to or whispering in the ear of that man, and that man was putting forth that woman's a particular point, and back and forth. So, but here it's through the line. So this man on the left, his name is Billy Possum. He lived in a tree. This is a very rare photo of him collecting clothes. He didn't even like wearing clothes. They gave him clothes anyway. That's not too long ago. That's probably 120 years ago, or less. On the man on the right is Yini. That's what the Australian realm called the King of Cairns, and the British realm before 1901 said he was the King of Cairns also. Once you've established law and where it comes from, it doesn't really matter if you've got old photos or not. The fact is that Birregubba law hasn't been extinguished, hasn't been ceded either in whole or in part. It's all there, which is why Australia continues to talk about a treaty. They need a treaty. They need a treaty. One of the first things we did was you need to show where your country is. And while native title gives you nothing in the Australian realm, let's say, they do give you maps and story and evidence that you can build your nation on and say that Australia said it. So this is from 2013. I'll just play the video and I hope you can hear it.
No sound.
No sound, so let me fix that. Let's try this.
No, still no sound.
Okay. All right, so basically what they're talking about here is the law and sovereignty. And this is well way before I got involved. Everyone thinks that I did a lot of the work. I didn't. I'm just the guy who can talk a lot. Okay, but my background was in television, as you probably know, back in the old days, in the dream time, I call it. But so one of the first things I did was I said, look, before I get involved, I need to see evidence of that what I'm getting involved with and my son is to the best of our ability to correct. And I met many of the different clan groups from the Yidinji Nation, and they showed me documents and this video, etc. These are all the men here. You can see men just talking, the women are in the background. So this was done on the strict tribal protocol, and they agreed to say, we want to create a nation again or reinvigorate the nation and modernize it. So there's a lot of people here. There's some key people from the Possum family, from the Yini family and others. And this is a historic moment. As you can see, there's a woman in the background. That's her son speaking for her. She's telling him to speak on her behalf and to put her concern or her ideas forward. And that's why it happened. It just happened there. Everyone agreed to do this, that, and the other. Everyone was cheesed off at the land council. And so they decided to do what we're talking about today. Let's start the very beginnings of the Yidinji Nation. So this is what you guys can do, or probably already done. I'm not too sure how far you've got, but it's making sure that you're not creating something inside of Australia. That's really important. So if you're registering a business under ORIC or ASIC or whatever it is, and you're getting funded by Australia, you're Australia's property. So the determination was this. This is Gunda Jarabai. And I do believe that Wadam, the tribal chief for the Githabul Narakbul Yukum also did something similar to this. And as you can see, there are signatures there in their tribal names. There's no Australian stuff there, okay? And we'll get into that a little bit later. So this went out to the Pope, to the Queen, to the UN, to the Human Rights Commission, to the local police station. The Prime Minister at the time, the Premier, the local mayor, all on our territory. And we said, we're back. We're back and we're doing our stuff. As you can see here, there's two different pieces of paper with two different marks on it. So people might know that kangaroo and emu represents the Commonwealth of Australia, and the brolga and the reindeer represents Queensland, for example. And there's a few others. I don't know what the New South Wales ones are, but I know WA's got a black swan on it and whatever. But as you can see, on the left-hand side, the tribal council, which what you saw in that video, that identifies like the royal houses. It's on here. They created a government that is identified with the cassowary and the rainbow serpent on it. That government is the one that does all the administration work for and on behalf of the Tribal Council. I have a stamp here in front of me. I'll show you later. That has the royal seal on it from that one on the left-hand side. It has the map, the spear and everything on it, and the shield. So we kept the things separately. The tribal law speaks through that one on the left, and all the government and international relations and man-made law, let's say, written law, is through our government. We didn't want to confuse the two. So when you have a government, you create your own things. Like we have a Citizenship Act, we have a Birth, Deaths and Marriages Act, we have a Constitution, we have a Police Powers Act, all those things that you may have heard of in the Australian realm. We're building our world to govern our pieces of paper with our written law. Before, and the same with UMOB, your markings on your body or your shields or your instruments would identify which part of the territory or which clan group you're from. So rather than us carrying these shields everywhere and it's too heavy, we created our digital identification, which citizens can download. They're immutable, which means you can't copy them. And so that's what this is all about. It's modernising your nation. If Captain Cook was to sail past today, let's say, then he wouldn't say Terra Nullius, because he can see, as an officer of the British Crown, he can see that this here, that's behind me, is the Yidinji office. So he could have come done paper to paper business. Yes, no worries, James, here's your visa, and let's work on some trade together. The Birregabba Nation has not done that in the way that Yidinji can see it right now. We can see the Githibal Narakbal Yukum Yukum because theirs on paper. Now, we'd love to see you guys, in a strange way, I'll say this, bring your government to life, even though it's all gammon paper. But for the world, they worship this stuff. That's what they want to see. Let's show them. Before, we had money with Shell. We call it Binal. Binal was a way of conducting trade. And as you can see on the right-hand side, this is our digital wallet. It has our central bank digital currency in there. So if I wanted to go watch a Cairns Taipans match, they accept sovereign Yidinji dollars. It's not cryptocurrency, it's not Bitcoin. Those things go up by tens of thousands of dollars every day. When you have your government in check, you have your central bank, you make the law as to what your money's worth. Ours is worth one Yidinji dollar is one Australian dollar. We keep it simple. But that's what the power is. We're still working on this, obviously, but now it's moving quicker than we would think. And the more people that get involved, the easier it is to conduct these transfers and things like that. So we can transfer money in less than 15 seconds. It's there, there's no bank fees, and you could be right next to me, or you could be in New York right now and you'd still receive it in the same time. And it's all accounted for. You can control the money, for example. Now, the world's heading down this track, but if you're in Australia, you won't be able to control that because someone overseas or Canberra controls it. But through your nation, you set this up, you control it in your area, and you, through your government, come up with your budgets and things like that. And that's a really powerful thing. That's something that is missing from this whole picture. The ability to interact on a commerce and trade level, because we've got to go to school, we've got to buy food and all that kind of stuff. Fair enough. And at the moment, the only recourse is you do it by yourself, or you go to a state school or whatever. So you need to start building up your nation, and banking is part of that. So what gives us the power to create a Yidinji dollar? Well, the written law does. So when Birregabba comes back to life on paper, and we see its legislation, not a Queensland one, not an Australia one, not a UN system one, we want to see your one. Okay, that's why we've got I think I've lost my camera. 2 seconds. I'll have to come back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you and we can still see the presentation.
Okay, good. So I'll have to switch to a different camera. Mine just died of battery. Been using it all day yesterday as well. So, Financial Institutions Act. We have a Udingi Reserve Bank Act. We have a sovereign Udingi dollar, and the SYD we call it, and that is represented by that symbol. Those symbols there. One's backed by gold, the other one's by silver. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're talking about today. That gives you a very simplified version of things to come if you choose to go down this track. It doesn't happen overnight, obviously. Otherwise, we would have gone a long time ago, I'm sure. But what it does do is gives us a bit of a guide track, and I will. Can you see me on this video now or not?
No.
Okay, if I escape that and stop share.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see me now. This is a different camera I've got. So, did you find that useful? I hope it was easy enough to follow.
Yes, thank you.
I'll follow what you guys want. So if you want to ask questions now or later, you let us know. But I can talk a little bit more, less.
Yep, I'll go ahead, Errol.
Yeah, Laura, Errol there. Brother.
You might just have to speak into the camera or into your phone or computer a little better.
Errol here from Warwick and England there. How are you?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me, yeah?
We can hear you.
Yeah, just to ask one question there. What's the reserve? Why did you call it Reserve Bank? Didn't you Reserve Bank?
No, we just lost you there, Errol. Seems to be fading in. Fading out a bit.
Okay, no. The question is, why did Murray have the Reserve Bank? What was that name?
Did anyone get that? No.
The name of the bank, the Reserve Bank of Udingi, is that right?
All right, say that again now. I think we can just hear you.
Yeah, the Reserve Bank of Udingi, is that right?
Reserve Bank of Udingi.
Yeah, so why was it named Reserve Bank? Can you hear me?
A little bit there. The Udingi Reserve, it's called the Udingi Reserve Bank. It's our central bank. And what was your? Can you write the question in, or which way?
Yeah, I think I've got it. The why was it called the Reserve Bank? Errol was asking.
Oh, you can call it whatever you like. You can call it the
Yeah.
Udingi Bank, but the Reserve Bank, people around the world will sort of get what it means. So we have a reserve or a deep reserve. That's why we probably put on reservations, because we were the reserve. But a reserve is a large supply of something, and that's what it is, the Udingi Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank of Australia is something similar.
Yeah.
And we just said, okay, we'll call it that. But it's up to you guys what you want to call it.
Yeah.
But we just use that so I think people around the world know what it is.
Yeah, so it's not affiliated with the Federal Reserve banks that in every country around the world, no?
No, not at all. So we've got no connection to the UN system.
Right, okay, that's all I need to know, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's a sovereign wealth reserve. Let's say that's your nation building capital there. That's how many trees you got, how much water, all those things. It's there for you to draw upon to sustain your people.
Okay, no, that's good.
Okay, so is there any questions, any other questions, particularly on that presentation before we move on?
Yeah.
I can show you some other things, our police officers and things like that. That might be,
Are you trying to, are you trying to, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Eric.
It seems to me like you are trying to put Yidinji and the Birigaba Nation in a kind of predicament like the NT mob with the traditional bank, the tribal bank or whatever it is up in the Darwin district. I've been up there and yeah, it's kind of sounds similar like that to me if you're asking. Are you trying to ask Birigaba Nation and Yidinji to start and make use control our earnings and our infrastructure and everything like that under one bank, like the tribal bank or traditional unions? Sorry, that's what it's called up in NT. Are you trying to do it like that?
absolutely not.
Well,
We
it
think-
sounds kind of like that to me. Good ways. I don't mean disrespect in any way, but yeah.
well, all we're saying is we're sharing the information that what we've done. So rather than asking people for a loan all the time, Yidinji said we'll start our own bank, and then we can underwrite our own.
That's exactly what the traditional bank up there is, NT. They control everything.
I don't
Well,
know about it.
Like that, I mean disrespecting tribal ways up that way and bringing it up down here, but yeah, it seems to me like, yeah, similar in that kind of way. I don't know
Well,
if I'm making any kind of sense to you, but yeah,
I think what money are they using?
they use an Australian currency, but yeah, they
Well, there's
got a
there's-
limit. Like when
Okay,
they go into that when they go into that tribal union, they got a limit. And
Yeah.
that's their loyalty money, that's everything what they work for.
okay.
We don't
So
want to be on no green card or basic card or that shit. Fuck that. Sorry for my language. Forgive my French. I mean, I
that's
don't want to be on no basic card and yeah,
No,
be under the thumb of a big corporation. No disrespect.
well, Eric, I appreciate that, but we don't deal with Australian money. We're building our own currency. That's what Yidinji dollars is about. So we don't want anything to do with Australia.
So he's trying to make Yidinji worldwide. Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
We're sharing this information to let Birigaba know what we've done. This is no way us telling you what to do. We're just saying, look.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, mate. But that is very interesting for you to be doing that.
Well, I can share you some more things as well. So I've just shared it in the chat room there, guys. When you have some time, have a look at that. This is a former senior financial expert for the International Monetary Fund. So they know about the Bank of International Settlements, the World Bank and everything else. They're talking about Yidinji money, not Australian money, not French money, not euros, nothing else but Yidinji money.
So you be classing Yidinji as First Nation money.
No, it's only Yidinji money. We don't even call ourselves First Nation.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
We don't worry about those things. So
Yep.
there's no Australian money here. There's no Australian identities. I can show you right now, as a minister for the Yidinji Crown, that's all I got. That badge there identifies the government minister. Okay?
So you'd want Birigaba, the whole Birigaba Nation to be staunch like you.
Well, it's up to you guys. Like I said, I can't, who am I to say what you should do? I'm only here to share what we've done and what's working for us. And I think that's the message for today. Whatever's done in the past is done inside of Australia. Okay? You went and got birth certificate. You even get Centrelink. That's all Australian. Where's your version of it? Where is your government creating its law, its police? Now, speaking of police, I'm going to share you something.
Yeah, there's LORE and LAW.
And that's the LORE was those men that put the government, and LAW for us is our government, not Queensland, not Australia, not America. So let me show you this one. Just get rid of that. So when you have your government, you can then start to, I'll share screen again. You can start to take care of yourselves, all right? Now, I'm going to go here and share screen like this. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
mate.
These are our police officers. They're not QPS. They're not Australian Federal Police. They are our Royal Police. The Queensland Police, the Australian Police cannot tell our police what to do. All right?
Yep.
They look after our citizens, the ones carrying the Yidinji ID. Remember, Indigenous Australians are Australian, and the Australian police will deal with Australians.
Yeah, that's true.
Have its own police. We have our own court. We're building it. All right? That's our police minister there with the hat, the cowboy hat in the back.
Yep, yep.
Every day you see our police. We got even a police car without number plates on it. That's what I'm
We've got
saying.
them right up in Kansas already.
Well, in Gimwa, yes. Cairns is the Australian now.
Yeah,
Gimwa,
yeah. Sorry, Lord.
that's why I
But
can't
yeah,
do this
that's
fire.
deadly.
You see?
That's deadly, man. That's deadly in all different kind of aspects.
Well, who's going to take Yidinji kids away from us? These fellas not. And now the Queensland Police, they're talking to us about how they can work better with us. All right?
Man, you can even reach out to the little Yidinji troublemaking teenagers up that way, pull them in line, take them out bush, take them camping and everything.
I'm glad you said that because we got junior police as well. My son is one of them.
That's deadly, man. That's awesome.
So we teach them about how to keep the peace, how to mediate, self-defense, the rule of law, how to speak to foreign police, how to speak to foreigners, all them things. With respect and love,
Man, that's outstanding. Honestly.
Can you see that there?
Continue on with your work, man.
I'm going to share this screen here. This is a former government minister of Zimbabwe meeting my son. He's taller than me, he's 14. So between 14 and 17, you can be a junior police cadet. So you learn how to scuba dive, you learn how to do all these other things, even firearms training when you get a bit older. But our police don't carry a gun, we don't need to. We told them that.
Should be walking around carrying a spear and a woman.
Well,
Good way.
to talk
For
good,
real.
well, just talking,
For real.
Yeah, these are the things that are, I reckon you guys are, you got everything there. You got a whole group of people watching now. That's more than, that's more than enough to get this ball rolling. And yeah, the Gunjabul is what the Githabul Marakbul police are called. Ours is called Mayara Nilalji, which in language means the holder of the law. I'll share one other thing with you here, and that's a very important thing. Just give me 2 seconds. There's only one place in the world, and it's up here. And you may have seen it, you may not have seen it, but let me show you about how serious Birugaba law is when it's coming back. All right. So there's only one place on this continent this happens, and it's right here. And you know why? Because they know we back. When the opening of the law season takes place. They need the blessing from us now because we are government here. And the judicial officers of the Australian realm work for us. And we said, you work for us now, and we'll look after you with our law. You can see the 3 men in the back there,
Yep.
the flags, they are police officers, and we've got another 10 in front of this camera, behind this camera you're seeing now. All right. Take your clothes off, put it on the ground. This is our land. You work for us. Those things that you're wearing, they belong to us. And now we protect you with our law
Sorry
here.
for laughing there, but this is just, yeah, too staunch. Man,
We said you can be here for 12 months, but don't interfere with Yidinji. So when we're driving our police car or we're walking around doing our thing, don't interfere with us.
wow.
How many of our mob can we stop from going into that building when we bring our law back and bring our government back? How many people can we stop from going into correctional facilities? You know what I mean?
Stop heaps from doing wrong and, yeah. Taking them back our country, reconnect. That's what we all need.
And when you go to the highest building in the court system, this crafted instrument is up the top there. Because that's the law from the men's side. It's got all the different stories, the different wet law, wet season law, dry season law, and all the different things in there. They won't know that, but I'm just letting you know that's what that is.
Yep.
Okay. You can see our police in the background there.
That uniform like in Oka belongs to them, for tribal dance, that uniform like Oka to them,
Yeah.
strength.
And this was this week. I'll just share this on quickly and then I'll stop. But I love sharing this stuff because I know you deserve to be at the top, not at the bottom.
Have we still got you, Moromu? I think we've lost your sound, Moromu. I think we may have lost. I don't know. I'm just going to send him a message there. Okay, while we're waiting for Moromu to come back on, Jagger, would you like to, or Uncle Doug, would you like to, either of you like to say something?
Yep. I've just been asked to speak for Uncle Dougie. We started this a little bit differently. When we began this, we used military text, Law of the Returned Sovereign, which is JAG's text under the Crown of Returned Sovereign, which is military text for belligerent occupying army. The reason we did that, because when we did our history, we found that this government we have is not a government. It's a belligerent occupier from America pretending to be a government. They're registered in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. And under their law, it clearly states that any citizen is an enemy. They can shoot you, tase you, poison you, steal, do all that other crap. So we use their international law because we weren't interested in using the law in Australia, because it was the law gave them all of the rights and took all of our rights away. So rather than dealing with Australian law, we dealt with international law, which every country deals with in order to settle disputes. Now, what Murima was explaining about is about the land. It all comes down to what we call sanctuary law. The law of the sanctuary is the boundaries of the land, whether it be a country, a township, or your tribal area. That's the sanctuary. Within that sanctuary, you have a society. The society is made of the rules and regulations of the cultural and religious practices. And within there, you have a citizen, which is the man or the woman who lives within those rules and regulations of whatever the people, whether it be nation, tribe, or whatever, within those boundaries of the land. So we created the first thing we discovered is he or she who owns interprets, or he or she who creates owns, he or she who owns interprets. This corporation called Commonwealth of Australia, they created it themselves, they own it, they interpret what they can and can't do, and everyone within it. So we said we didn't want to be a part of that. So also the law, he or she who owns the registry owns whatever is registered. And under international law, no man or woman is allowed to be registered because it's an acknowledgement of slavery. It means you're owned. So they only registered the legal name in all capitals. So we created our own registries, our own royal house, our own registries to begin. And we went through our own process to do the same thing. And up here where Uncle Dougie is where they began the creation of corporate tribes. And what that is in 1981, when they started seeing that the lands were being claimed, and the international law stated that the tribes of all countries have the right to claim their own lands. So the Bob Carr and Bob Deaver started creating corporate tribes, which is people from other areas to come in and claim someone else's land. And the local, state, and federal supported them in doing so, which is also a land laundering and apartheid. So we decided to go down that road. And so in doing so, we brought to the surface all of the laundering, the land laundering, and so on. And then every time we tried to put our paperwork in place to deal with these corporate governments and the fake tribes and so on, their police represented them and so on, and we got smashed. So when we were asked to go up and go and see the Yidinji, we did so. We got the paperwork from them, and then we duplicated the same paperwork, did the same process, and we come out the other end. Sovereign capacity, full sovereign capacity recognition by the 1st of November last year. That's when we stepped over. But because we were still dealing with all of the lands on the coast, the east coast, which is Githabo Naraku, they started their first fake tribe they created, they call Banjalang, Banjul Yulang, and that words is actually from Melbourne, Banjul, which is head ceremony man, Yulang, which is a pelican dreaming. So the whole words are from a different place. And it was brought up here, but this is where the pelican songline came up to here before the pelican migrated over to other countries. And that's where that whole story came up to here. It's the end of a songline, but it's not where the words at that group is not from here. That's from Melbourne. So we were having to deal with all that at the same time. So in doing so, we also put documents into the United Nations, letting them know that we as a tribal nation and tribal kingdom are dealing with a war zone, illegal war zone that has been put on our land by a corporate government. And we wish them to be removed because under the crown of the returned sovereign, once the returned sovereign steps back, they claim everything, every road, every building, every single company, airport, and so on. And so we put that in along with the evidence of the fraud of this corporate government since 1973, and how it wasn't really a government, it's just a company. And it's a US military administration operating under a code called the Lever Code, which is US military administration. There is no constitution here since 1973. All constitutions are bound for times of peace. Lever Code is the US military code for belligerent occupying military. And we showed that they are just a military belligerently occupying our lands. That's all been sent over, and we've now got word back. The UN has never seen paperwork like ours from the Security Council, from Native American, African, and so on. The paperwork we provided to show that we are sovereign capacity using the same paperwork that Udingi has done, but we also put the JAGS text, law of belligerent occupation, gives us the right to tell the belligerent occupiers to leave, and their war can no longer reside on the lands within the boundaries of Githabonarapo. Everything that Mortimer said about the banking and so on, we're in the same process of doing exactly the same thing. But now we have the UN Security Council now just stepped in. Got a meeting, I got a conversation yesterday where 9 members, the 9 areas of the UN Security Council is now dealing with us to deal with the belligerent occupiers within the land that they call commonly known as Australia. Now, what we found in the trick of everything, when they came here, the only thing they own is what they created. They got to map the metes and bounds of our land, and then they put their names, their words. And you think of it like a clear pet transparency, and then they put it on top of our land, and they said, that's ours. And all we could see was their words and all of our land, thinking that that's their claim. No, it's not. The only thing they can claim is what they created, which is the transparency on top of the photograph or the image of your land. They don't own your land. The trick is to get you to believe that they claimed it. They never claimed anything. They can't claim anything under their law. The only thing they can claim is what they create. So they created metes and bounds, a map. They then created their own names, Sydney, Melbourne, and so on. Department of Housing, all of that shit, that's the stuff they own. But when you actually lift that transparency, and then you say, well, actually, first in time, first in law, this is Githabonarapo country, this is the boundaries, this is called whatever the traditional names were, then you supersede their claim. So the only thing they can have from that time forward is their map, their registry, whatever they have registered, which is not us or within or any of our property. So we took a little bit of a different route. We did the same sovereign capacity using the same words and the same jurisdiction that Mortimer's put together, but we went straight to the UN under international law to get the same as they under the UN peacekeepers to remove the belligerent occupiers calling themselves Commonwealth of Australia, all capitals, registered in Washington, DC. So you could say what Muramu's done is the good cop. We stepped in to be the bad cop. Yeah, that's how we've done what we've done so far. We have another meeting with them, with the Security Council, to deal with the belligerent occupiers calling themselves Commonwealth of Australia government, local, state, and federal, and telling them to pack the bags. And the only rights they hold within our boundaries are the rights that we give them if we choose for them to hold services for and on behalf of the people. If not, time to pack up, time to leave. That's where we've come from.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Jagger.